Hey, welcome back, Casibang's crew. This is our last video in Unit 6 in development. This is the adulthood and aging video. So first we're going to talk about physical changes in adulthood and in aging. So technically, adulthood begins in the early 20s and ends with death in old age. Women experience a physical decline in our reproductive system at about the age of 50 with menopause, which is the cessation of ovulation in the menstrual cycle, and the end of a woman's reproductive ability. Andropause is the gradual changes in the sexual hormones for men. Okay, so menopause in women, andropause in men. There is an increase in health issues, health problems, decrease in reaction time, and a stability in intelligence and in memory when you age. So health changes, okay, your health in your old age, no big surprise here, but your health in your old age is definitely related to how healthy you are when you're younger. Most older people tend to rate their health as good. 40% of older adults have a chronic disease, something like heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, hypertension. Okay, those are all pretty common disorders. 1% of older adults are no longer able to care for themselves, so living in nursing homes, but a very small percentage. We're going to take a look at some graphs on physical changes in adulthood. And a lot of this we've talked about already. So this graph is showing vision. Okay, so when we did the sensation and perception unit, we talked about how your vision decreases over the course of your lifetime. So right here, right around age 70 is where we see a really significant drop off in vision. Okay, really significant drop off. All right, this one is smell. So again, right around this age of 70, right before 70 is where we start to see the significant drop off in our ability to smell. Hearing, okay, identifying spoken words, okay, much earlier. Sadly, much earlier. Okay, so reaches our peak right here around 20, 25-ish, and then starts to decline. Okay, already in 30, it starts to decline. Gets real bad around 50. Okay, and then you see as you get closer to 90, it's a pretty significant decrease. Memory, say cognitive changes. Okay, the number of words recalled goes down. Again, we start to see that decrease around 30 and then another jump again after 40. But the number of words that we recognize goes up a little bit, okay? Just a little bit, but goes up. And this is just our ability to remember words that we've encountered before. So the ability to recall new information declined during early and middle adulthood, but the ability to recognize new information did not decline. All right, so mental functioning in adulthood. This should be a review because we did this already when we talked about intelligence back in Unit 2. But crystallized intelligence is your accumulated knowledge and verbal skills. This is just the stockpile. I always imagine just a big giant pile of knowledge. So the accumulated knowledge and verbal skills, it increases as you age. And then fluid intelligence is this ability to reason speedily and abstractly. So this decreases in age due to our nervous system decline. So the example that I always give you is, grandma with her new Apple iPhone. Okay, she's going to be calling you, asking you how to do certain things on it just because her fluid intelligence is less than yours is. Fluid intelligence peaks around the age of 25. Reaction time, visual motor skills, and retrieval decline with age. A small percentage of older people develop senile dementia. And that's something that we are going to talk about in the clinical unit. But dementia is just not being able to remember and being like mixed up in your thoughts. So life situations can be different in adulthood and aging. As people age, they tend to become more isolated and lonely. They've retired from work, so they don't have, someplace that they have to be every day, some reason to get up in the morning. Their families have all grown and, probably moved on. They might be losing friends and might be losing family members. So they tend to become isolated and a bit more lonely. Remember this when your grandparents want to hang out with you. Okay. That's why. Depression is common among older adults, right? Especially after a spouse dies. And some of that depression comes from this feeling of isolation and loneliness. Many older adults do continue to learn new skills. A lot of adults will, take classes or they'll start volunteering just to keep themselves busy. All right, there are a couple of theories on aging, okay, and how our body really starts aging. So the activity theory, that adjustment to aging that assumes older people are happier if they remain active in some way, such as volunteering or developing a hobby or going out to play golf every now and then. Okay, so this theory just says you're happier if you're more active. The cellular clock theory, this is based on the idea that cells only have a finite amount of time in your body, only so many times that they can reproduce and regenerate themselves. So once that limit is reached, then damaged cells begin to accumulate in your body, and that's when like diseases and disorders can happen. Wear and tear theory. So as time goes by, repeated use and abuse of your body's tissues and muscles and joints make it so that they're unable to repair themselves. And then the free radical theory is that oxygen molecules with unstable electrons move around the cell, damaging cell structures as they go. So these three theories, the cellular clock theory, wear and tear theory, and free radical theory, can explain why diseases and certain disorders happen more frequently to the elderly. All right, so the last thing is death and dying. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross developed her theory on the stages of grief. Okay, this is the very last stage theory that we are going to learn in the development unit. I know there have been a ton of them. But she developed her theory on the stages of grief. So these different feelings or different stages that we go through, and generally we tend to go through them in order before we get to the point of where we have accepted our imminent death or accepted the loss of a loved one. So the first stage is denial, okay, just pretending like it's not happening, okay, it's not there. Second stage is anger, okay, so being mad at God or being mad at the doctors or anyone involved, okay, so being angry. The third is bargaining. This happens a lot with, if you believe in a higher power, so you're bargaining with God, like, please God, let me make it through this and I'll be a better person, sort of thing. The fourth one is depression, okay, just obviously being depressed about what's imminent or what's happened. And then the final stage is acceptance. Okay, accepting that death is imminent, or accepting that you have lost a loved one and they have maybe moved on to a better place. Not all researchers, not all psychologists agree in this stage theory for the grief process. Other people do say that there's, that you don't have to go through these stages in order, that they could happen randomly, that maybe you would skip a stage and move on to the next stage. So there is some disagreement and some criticism on Kubler-Ross's idea of the stages of grief. And there is a video that I am going to show you that should help you remember these stages, because obviously you do need to remember them. All right, so that is it for our aging and adulthood video, and that's it for Unit 6, okay? So we are done with new content for Unit 6. Make sure you come into class tomorrow with any questions, and I will see you then. Bye.